On the morning of June 23, 1757, heavy monsoon rains soaked the muddy fields of Bengal. Two armies faced each other across the soggy plains, waiting for the artillery to fire. Over the next few hours, a sudden downpour and a pre-planned betrayal would turn a merchant trading company into a global empire. The force marching on those fields wasn't a national army, it was the East India Company, a profit-driven corporation answering to shareholders in London. A year earlier, the Nawab of Bengal had captured the company's main settlement at Calcutta after growing tired of their tax evasion and unauthorized fortifications. In response, the company dispatched an ambitious accountant-turned-soldier named Robert Clive to take it back. A commercial entity was seeking violent retaliation to protect its regional monopolies. Clive arrived at the village of Plassey with a remarkably small expeditionary force. He commanded roughly 3,000 men, only 950 of whom were European, and just 9 light cannons. Arrayed against them was the Royal Army of the Nawab. He fielded 50,000 infantry, 15,000 elite cavalrymen recruited from the Afghan border, and 53 heavy cannons. Outnumbered 21-1 and outclassed in artillery and manpower, the company forces were facing a slaughter. If Clive failed to hold his ground, the East India Company's operations in Bengal would be permanently erased. At daybreak, the battle opened with a deafening artillery duel. The Nawab's massive heavy cannons pounded the British lines, pinning Clive's tiny force down under a continuous barrage. To survive the onslaught, Clive ordered his men to take cover behind a mud embankment inside a local mango grove. For hours, the bombardment continued. Then, at 11 a.m., the sky broke open. A violent monsoon rainstorm burst over the battlefield, flooding the muddy plains. Knowing the climate, the British troops immediately used tarpaulins to cover their cannons and gunpowder. The Nawab's artillery units lacked the same canvas logistics. Within an hour, the Nawab's powder was ruined. The massive artillery advantage that had pinned the British down went silent. Seeing the rain, the Nawab's sole faithful commander, Mir Khan, assumed the British powder was just as waterlogged as his own. He ordered his elite cavalry to charge directly at the British lines, expecting zero artillery resistance. As the horses closed in, Clive's men pulled back their dry tarpaulins. They unleashed a devastating volley of grape shot at point-blank range. The charge shattered, and Mir Khan was mortally wounded. Watching his only reliable general die, the Nawab panicked. He threw his turban on the ground and begged his top commander, Mir Jafar, for protection. But Mir Jafar had already negotiated a secret contract with Clive. In exchange for the throne, he and his fellow commanders simply stood their massive armies down and refused to engage. Premeditated treason, triggered by a rainstorm, had secured the victory. Abandoned by his military, the Nawab fled the battlefield and was soon assassinated, leaving the region uncontested. Robert Clive installed Mir Jafar as the new Nawab of Bengal, though he functioned as little more than a controlled puppet. The East India Company then emptied the Bengal treasury, claiming nearly 30 million rupees in corporate damages and cash presents. Soon after, the company secured the right to directly collect taxes across Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, essentially privatizing the region's entire civil administration. Years later, when questioned about the immense personal fortune he took from the conquest, Clive remarked, "I stand astonished at my own moderation." The wealth siphoned out of Bengal provided the funding the British needed to defeat the French worldwide during the 7 Years' War. Plassey shifted the East India Company from a merchant trading firm to a political power that maintained its own army and collected regional taxes. By seizing control of Bengal's revenues, the company began 200 years of British colonial rule over the Indian subcontinent. Today, a quiet marker stands in the mango groves outside the village of Plassey, noting where world history was rewritten. Global power rested on the smallest of details: a wet powder keg, a piece of canvas, and the price of a bribed general.